Hi, I'm David, and I've got a passion for things from the Hanoverian or Georgian period of British history. This one I'd like to talk about is items from the Morning Chronicle of London, Tuesday, November the 5th, 1822. So this is 7 years after the Battle of Waterloo of 1815. It's in the period of George the Fourth. And I've got a few items down here. For example, here we have got genuine spermaceti oil. Families in the town or country are supplied with the finest spermaceti oil, warranted equal to any charged at a higher price, at 5 shillings per gallon for ready money at Samuel Hickson's and Co.'s, Foreign Warehouse, 72 Welbeck Street. So that was for oil lamps and to make candles. Very good. It was the best there was. Corns, nails and bunions, Mr. Fletcher, chiropodist or surgeon to the feet. 24, corner of Great Castle Street, Cavendish Square. Corns the most painful and invertebrate. He takes away in a few minutes. Down here we have Parsons whooping cough powders. Few diseases are found more perplexing than the whooping cough, and the medicines usually administered for this alarming complaint have proved totally ineffectual. Mr. Parsons is induced, after several years' experience of its efficiency, to offer his medicine to the public as a safe and certain remedy. Then you have all the different places like the Dutch papers, the Lisbon papers. You've got books that are coming out, the history of Henry Miller. And then at the back of the paper, we have the police section. Right there. Police, and it says Bow Street. Now, Bow Street, in 1822, there was no official police force. There was what was known as the Bow Street Runners that were set up by Henry Fielding, who was the magistrate at Bow Street Court in 1748. Now, these were ununiformed people that went out, not just reactive. So in the past, you'd only go after the crime had been committed. So you'd go to your local magistrate and say a crime is committed. He would send off somebody to see if he could find anything. But often it was up to the individual who would set up a reward and say, I'll give £10 or whatever to capture these criminals, whatever damage they've done. So it's tentative, and then you would bring them in front of the magistrate once you caught them, and then they would be dealt with. So it was much more of a personal thing that you had to do rather than a state thing. There was a sort of idea of the hue and cry that you'd make everybody in the area know about it. So there was a lot of opposition to setting up a police force because people thought it was against the individual's rights, and they thought the police force might be used like the military to oppress the population, so they didn't like it. And it was not until 1829 that London had its own police force, and not until the 1830s that the rest of the country started to set up police forces. So it was mainly the Bow Street Runners. Now, the item I'm going to look at today, sounds like something that came from a Charles Dickens play. It's about these little boys who set up a little gang to pilfer. So let's have a look. Where we bought. Here we go. Let's see if we can get the town hall. If we can find him. Town Hall. In a report from this office on the 26th of last month, allusion was made to the existence of a gang of boy thieves who resort to a public house in Tooley Street to plan and effect depredations. Yesterday, 7 of these young pilferers were brought before Mr. Alderman J.J. Smith by John Wise, the marshalman, on the charge of robbery. It appeared that on Saturday night, 2 of the prisoners, named Glover and Mawson, went into the shop of Mr. Rhodes, grocer in Thornton Street, Dockhead, and asked for some plums, which they paid for. The prosecutor, observing a crowd of other lads outside the window, directed so much of his attention to those he was serving that he did not notice 2 of the others crawl in at the doorway and carry off a cake of soap valued 2 shillings and 6p. The thief was observed by Mr. Adams of Dockhead, who was induced to watch the gang from their suspicious behaviour at other shops, and he secured the depredator J. Wycroft with a soap in his possession. Wise said he had apprehended all the others by description. They were all reputed thieves, and the majority had gained the honours of the mill. The alderman said they should have another spell at it, and each prisoner was committed for 1 month. Now, the mill referred to there was the treadmill. Now, this was set up. Here we have a picture of the treadmill. As you can see, you have the prisoners on this wheel, and they had to walk steadily, and all these gears that it wheels. Now, sometimes this would have made use of this movement by grinding corn or something like that. So there's some use, and other times it was said to be grinding the wind because there was no use to it. All it was a punishment. The wheel was torqued up, so there was pressure against it, so it pushed your legs, but there was no actually good. All it was just a punishment. Now, the prison treadmill was introduced in 1818 by British engineers Sir William Cubitt as a means of useful occupying convicts in the prison at Bury St Edmunds and Brixton. There had been simple 2-man treadmills before, which were used to raise up water and grain preparation. These were on a large scale and of a different purpose. Cubitt observed prisoners lying around in idleness and opined that it was better reforming offenders by teaching them the habits of industry. It was intended to be pointless and punish. Resistance of to the motion was provided by straps and weights. Later, when the prison philosophy had changed, it became acceptable to use the energy of power pumps and corn mills. 44 prisons in England adopted this form of hard labour of grinding grain. Others remained grinding the wind. By the Prison Act of 1865, every male prisoner over 16 sentenced to hard labour had to spend at least 3 months of the sentence in labour order. This consisted primarily of treadmill, or as an alternative, a crank machine. This consisted of a small wheel like the wheel of a paddle steamer, and the handle turned by the prisoner made it revolve in a box partially filled with gravel. In 1895 there were 39 treadmills and 29 cranks in use in English prisons, and these had diminished to 13 and 5 respectively in 1901. The use of the treadmill was abolished in Britain in 1902 by the Prison Act of 1898. Right, thank you for watching. I hope you learned a bit more about what daily life was like in the Georgian and Hanoverian period. Thanks. Bye.